All right, welcome back to TechniqueWOD. Today we're talking about building stronger legs with front foot elevated reverse lunges. Okay, if you don't know what a front foot elevated reverse lunge looks like this. You're basically just standing on something. Usually it's a plate or a box or some type of a mat, and you're stepping off of it, touching your knee at the bottom, and coming back up. So it looks just like a regular reverse lunge. You're just getting a little more range of motion because your front foot ends up a little bit higher off the ground as you step back. So that's why I like it, because just like doing like a parallel squat versus a full squat, you do full squats so you can work your muscles and your joints through a full range of motion. A lot of times when we're doing a split squat or a lunge, this isn't quite a full range of motion. If I was this deep, so to speak, on both legs bilaterally, if I was like this and then I bring my other leg forward to the exact same position, I'm kind of in a parallel, not all the way down. I could go much lower if I was doing a bilateral squat. So same deal when I'm doing, let me steal one of these real quick. When I'm doing a front foot elevated reverse lunge, to get to that full range of motion, I might need my front foot to be elevated a little more, maybe even higher than this. Okay? So what I like to do is get into a good lunge position. Usually how I do that is I start kneel down, tall kneeling, then I step forward until I get to a vertical shin. This is a good start position for the most part for lunges and split squats. Certainly you can short stride it and make it where you're not quite at a vertical shin, puts a little more emphasis on your quads and on your knee rather. If you do the opposite, you take a much wider stance, you kind of lean forward a bit, still with that vertical shin. So we're going to put a lot more of the stress is going to be more on the hips, glutes, etc., and less on the knee and on your quads. But like I said in the beginning, being vertical all the way from knee, hip, shoulders here, having a vertical shin in front, this is a good start position as far as finding where your foot position should be. From here, for this front foot elevated variation, I like to hold on to something and then keep my ribs down. Everything stays the same. Just pick up my knee as high as I can get it. And this is about, maybe that's 3 or 4 inches. That's going to be right around where you're going to be able to go, where you're not compensating. You're not getting, if it was a foot off the ground, I'd have to round to get my leg that high. So as far as picking a height, how much you should put under your foot, how many bumper plates or how many mats or whatever it is, that's an easy way to figure out the height at which, kind of like your max height. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do max height every time. You can do 1 plate, you can do 2 plates, whatever it is. Those are different movements, but it's good to find out your maximum range of motion before you actively choose to not go to that maximum range of motion. Okay? So once you've determined that, there's a lot of ways you can load it. If you're just starting out, I like to start either with a goblet position like this, tap and come up, kind of as a learning tool, or I like to hold a kettlebell in one hand, I'll face you, and then step back with the opposite leg in front. So left leg in front, right arm is holding the weight. Then as you get more and more comfortable with it, you've done it a couple times before, you're going to get sore the first time you do it, going through a much larger range of motion than normal, especially for most people that I've ever worked with, and myself included. Even if I don't feel my glutes a lot during the exercise, they tend to be the thing that's very sore the next day. So you're bound to be sore for the increased range of motion, especially if you're using something like a safety bar, where I step into it, I step up on the elevated platform. It's nice with a safety bar because you don't have to hold on to the bar. You can hold on to the uprights if you need to. You can even use it just to just to find your position. Hold on, be like, okay, is this good? Is this a good weight? Of course, you should build up and you should know if it's a good weight. You can hold on to those uprights the whole time if you want to. You don't need to, but starting off, it might make you feel more comfortable potentially. And then over time, you can switch from holding on to maybe just kind of tapping the inside just to keep your balance if you feel like you need to. And then eventually, of course, you won't need it at all. unless you're potentially doing things like forced reps. You're coming up, it's really hard. Maybe you need to kind of just like pull yourself through that sticking point. I actually really like to do that. I actually really like to pull myself through the sticking point in some cases where I can do forced reps, where as I'm getting too fatigued, I can just bump myself through that sticking point. I can eke out a few extra repetitions, just like if you're doing a bench press and you have a spotter and they're kind of just pulling you through your sticking point. Doing methods like that isn't something you necessarily want to do every single time for every single exercise, but doing forced reps has good application, and it can help you cause a little more muscle damage, cause a little bit extra stimulus, which might cause more muscular growth and more strength gain over time. So I really, really like that. So categorically, single leg exercises or split stance exercises like split squats and lunges, I think those work very well, specifically for people that have very long legs. If you're a person that has long legs and a short torso, you're not generally advantaged for squatting. You tend to deadlift better than you can squat because you have a short torso. Being bent over is oftentimes very comfortable, and squatting with a vertical torso like front squats and overhead squats tends to be very difficult. It's hard to get into that vertical torso position, especially when you're trying to get very, very low, just because biomechanically it's just a tougher position for you to achieve compared to someone who has the kind of the opposite body type. So for those people, if you have long limbs and a short torso, oftentimes your leg strength is your limiter, your quad strength is your limiter, and so working those weaknesses is going to be one of the things that helps you, get to the next level and hit a new PR. You gotta fix the weakest link in the chain, so to speak. So again, oftentimes that is knee extension quad type strength. And single leg work, specifically for us today, doing front foot elevated reverse lunges, or just regular split squats, regular lunges, that tends to work very well for making people that have very long limbs put a lot of muscle mass on their legs, and it kind of takes their back, which they're often stronger being bent over and keeping their back very rigid. I tend to compensate when I get tired. If I squat and I'm here, I tend to want to go like this because here I'm much stronger and I can kind of get through that rep, but I only get out of position because my quads aren't strong enough to push me through my sticking point in a proper position. If I make my quads stronger and I have greater knee extension strength, whenever I train a lot of single leg work like this, and I do it heavy, and I'm doing front foot elevated reverse lunges, like 5 sets of 5 as assistance work to my squats and deadlifts. I always get stronger, and I always hit PRs as a result. So you want to focus on where your weaknesses are, and if you're that type of person, I think lunges and split squats, training the legs specifically, works very, very well. Likewise, if you're a person that you want to reduce the loading on your spine for any particular reason, maybe you just want to deload for a week because you've been pushing it really hard for the last 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, and you want kind of a back off week. You want your spine to be able to rest. You've been doing a lot of deadlifts, a lot of good mornings, etc., and you want to mix it up. These are a great option. Also, if you have any type of back injury, but you still want to load your legs, very heavy without loading your spine very heavy, doing single leg work, lunges and split squats also works very, very well. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm Doug Larson. You can find me on Instagram at Douglas E. Larson. Also, everything's Shrugged Collective. We got Barbell Shrugged coming on Wednesday and a bunch of other shows that come out every other day of the week. So definitely check that out. We also have online training programs at the program Vault. If you go to shruggedcollective.com/vault, you can see all of our online training programs on that one site. You get access to all of them for one monthly payment. So you can switch back and forth from programs, as you choose. You don't have to sign up for one and then cancel it and sign up for another. It's very, very convenient if you want to bounce from program to program as your goals change and as you become interested in new things. So check that out. If you have questions, as always, hit me up on Instagram. Like I said, I'll see you another day.
Welcome to the Shrugged Collective Program Vault. Over the last 6 years, we've been leading the charge in online strength and conditioning programming and coaching. And for the first time in the history of the Shrugged Collective, we're combining our 11 best-selling long-term and short-term accessory programs into one membership site called the Program Vault. From Olympic weightlifting to strongman, leaning out, nutrition, you name it, our 11 best-selling programs are yours for $47 a month. Get to shruggedcollective.com/vault and you will find immediate access to our 11 best-selling strength and conditioning programs.